If you'd like to learn how to make some animated boxes like these here to add to your Obby, keep watching and I'll show you exactly how to do it. Welcome to Roblox Snippets. Alright, as you can see, I have a blank project, and you may think in the demo I had a bit of an Obby happening. However, that is the Obby from the first video. Now I'm breaking these into parts, so when I record a video like this, I'll show you how to do the element that I'm talking about in a separate project, but then I'll have a main project that I will show you how to then save what you do in this project and put it into your main game. There's a couple of good reasons to do that. One of them is that if you have problems with something you've developed for your main game, you can quickly remove it out of your main game, delete it altogether, and then come back to your individual project and work on the thing that you're trying to create. So with that said, the first thing we're going to do, you would have seen I had an animated box in the beginning, and so we're going to create that for a start. So up the top here on home, in the workspace, create a part into the workspace. Now we're going to make this a box. You can make this any size that you like. However, I'm going to stick to, say, 4 by 4 by 4. All right, so if you scroll down to the properties and find size, and we just want to type 4, 4, 4, and that will resize our part, and we'll move this up so it's level with the base plate. And we'll change this to box part so that we know what it is. And the only other change we really need to make to the actual box itself, we're going to anchor this part, and we're also going to turn off can collide, because we want players to run into it to collect it, but if it's can collide, they sort of will bump into it and then it will disappear. It's probably better if we turn off can collide, so they just run through it and it disappears, but it's completely up to you. Now, if you want to decorate this box, I'm going to add in some decals. So if we come up to the Home tab and click on Toolbox, all right, underneath the drop down over here, you'll find models, etc., etc. Come down and find images, and in here I typed wooden box, and it should come up with a selection of various textures that we can use to put onto this box here. So I'm just going to go with this one that I found here, or you can create your own, or you can just make it a block. But if I click on this, you'll notice that the texture gets added into here, and it is a decal. All right, so that is the name that is given to it. So once you have one of those in there, you can close our toolbox. And if we have a quick look at the decal, it gets put on the front face. Now we're currently facing front, so if I move my camera around, you'll see that it's been put on this face here. Now, if you familiar with cubes, then we have 6 faces, all right, just like a die. So we're going to create one for each face and then change it. So with this decal over here, you can Command or Control D on your keyboard, which sometimes it works for me and other times it doesn't, and it's not going to work today. All right, so right click on it and come up to duplicate, and we're going to do that another few times till we have 6. All right, so 5 and 6. Then starting up the top here, if you come down into its properties, you'll find the face that it's on. Okay, and if you open this up, you'll notice that it has all of the faces. So we're going to go through each one, but we'll do it from top to bottom, that way we won't miss any. So this first one will go on the back, and then we'll come down and the drop down, move down one, bottom, and then continue down the list. So front, and after front we'll have left, and after left we'll have right, and the last one will be the last one down here, which is the top. And we'll end up with a box that looks like this. All right, so that is the thing that we're going to be working with, and we can just close that up, and we are good to move on to the next part, where we're going to create some code that will animate this box to make it stand out a little bit for your players. Okay, to begin with, as we're going to collect these boxes, and in the main project, we will want to keep a count of how many boxes that the player collects. So over here in server script service, let's click on the plus and add a script, and we're going to call this our main script. And we'll come in here and get rid of the hello world, and I'll just make this a bit bigger. Right, so when players join the game, we'll say game.players, and then a colon, or actually, sorry, dot player added. We're going to connect a function and pass in the player that is joining the game. Now, for each player that has joined the game, we're going to create a leader stats board. So local leader stats equals instance.new, and the leader stats is actually a folder. So we type in here folder, and then move outside of the inverted commas and add a comma, and we will parent it to the player. Okay, so this is the same thing as writing leaderstats.parent equals player, only this is a shortened version up here. And we give leaderstats folder, so name, and we need to name it exactly as it's written here. So leader stats. Alright, so this part is very important, otherwise it won't work. Roblox makes use of this word in order to set up the leader stats in the corner. So make sure this part, you could call this over here whatever you like, but player stats or whatever, but this word needs to be exactly like this, all lowercase. Now that we have a folder, we're going to add a value into this folder. So we'll create the value by saying player boxes, and it will be equal to instance.new, and it will be a number value as we want to count. And in this case, we want to parent this to the leader stats folder. We'll give our player boxes a name, and we'll simply call it boxes. And player boxes dot value will equal 0. Now, if you've never done this before, or this is confusing to you, I'll just run the project very briefly and show you how and where it works. Alright, so I'm in the game and running, and you'll see we have this window up here with my name, boxes up here, and a value. Now, where does that appear? Well, if you come over into Explorer and click on Players, you'll find your character name, and then if you expand your character, here is the folder leader stats, so each player gets one of these. And then if we expand this, we get this value here, which is boxes, and it's a number value currently set to 0. Alright, so that's how that all works. So when you're happy with that, click stop, and we'll come back to our main script, and that's all we need in here to work with in order to make things work with the box. So we can close the main script, and now we'll get on to coding the actual box part. Now, if you're making an Obby, or any game for that matter where you have collectibles like this, then it's quite possible and very likely that you will have a lot of these. So you might have 20 or 50 or 100 scattered throughout your game, and they all do exactly the same thing. So for that reason, we're going to use a tagged script, because if I just put a script into this box and then had 50 of them, we would have 50 scripts running the same thing, whereas with a tag script, we can use one script to control them all. Alright, so I'll show you how to do that, and we'll do that in Server Script Service. So left click on Server Script Service and the plus, and we'll add a script, and we'll call this our tagged box script. Now, it's not super confusing how to use this. In fact, it's pretty easy, and the part we're setting up here is just a little bit of code, and then you would write the script as normal for whatever circumstance you want to use it in. And we'll start off up the top here. We're going to make use of a service called the collection service. So local CS for collection service equals game, and then a colon get service, and the collection service. Beneath this, we'll create a variable called tagged parts, and use the collection service with a colon, and type get tagged with a set of inverted commas in there. So what this is going to do is the collection service is going to look through our game for any parts that have the tag that we haven't created yet, but we will in a moment, and put them into a table over here for us to make use of. So now we'll create the tag, and if we come up to in our Explorer and find the box part here, now we're going to be using a plugin And if you come up to plugins while we're in the script view, you'll notice they're all grayed out. So you need to come over and be in the workspace view and then click on plugins, and they should all light up. And once you've done that, you're looking for the plugin that says tag window. All right. Now, if you don't find that, you can come over to manage plugins over here. And if you don't see it in here, you can click on plus, although it should be there because it's a default part of Roblox. When you find it and you're ready to use it, click on it and it will open this window. We are going to click inside this line here that says add new tag and type boxes and then hit enter. Now, you could put this in all lowercase if you wanted to, or all capitals, whatever suits you, but remember it has to be exactly like this when we use it in our script. So now we have our tag, we want to attach it to the box. So over here in the workspace, left click on the box part itself, and then come over and there's a checkbox next to this pencil icon, and click in there, and when it goes blue, then we are right to go. Now, so that we get this right, let's click on our script, and inside of here we want to type boxes, although our helper text there is not helping, but you'll see that it is exactly the same. Close that window and we are good to go. Now, we only have one part in here at the moment, but we're going to loop through this like there are many parts. So we'll do that with a for loop, and we say for and then a space and then underscore. All right, so that's shift and the minus button. And that basically means for however many there are in the table, because we're not going to make use of this iterator part over here. And we'll say each, actually we'll just say TP for the tagged part, in pairs, tagged parts, and do. So it will grab any tagged parts, loop through, and we're going to apply any text or any code we write will be applied to each box. All right, and we're going to create more later. However, for the time being, we'll just stick with this one. All right, so now that we have our tagged part worked out, let's create the code that we need to apply to everything. Now, there's a couple of, we're going to use the tween service. So up the top here, just below our collection service, insert a line and we'll get the tween service. So TS, all right, equals game get service, tween service. If you haven't used tweens before, they are very cool, and you'll see how they work down below. But there are a couple of things that we need to do to set this up. So the first one up the top here, if we come inside of our loop now, first one will be the info. So we're going to say local box info will equal, and then put a capital for tween info, and you'll see this pop up, .new, and you'll get all these things that we need to put in. So as we go through, the first one, time, is how long the tween will run for. And just follow along with what I do, but you can come back and change these later and experiment a bit. And we're going to make it for half a second. And then a comma, and we go to easing style. So type in enum.easing style, and then dot. And once again, you can experiment with these, but we will use this as linear, just the default one that pops up. Add a comma, enum.easing direction dot in and out. And next is the repeat count. Now, we're going to make this just sit there and repeat forever. So if you didn't want any repeats, and I'll just get rid of this over here for the moment. If you didn't want any repeats, you would put 0. All right, if you wanted 1 or 2, then you could put those in. But if you want it to repeat forever, you put -1. All right, and it will just repeat over and over. And the last one, comma, do you want it to reverse? And we are going to say true. So we're going to make it change shape in one direction and then go back in the other direction. All right, so I'll just leave that on the screen there for a moment so you can see the whole line. So local box info, tweeninfo.new, etc. And it should look just like that. All right, to even make it easier to read, if I hit enter after each comma, all right, this will work just the same, but you should be able to read that better. Right, so now that we have the info, or how we want the tween to behave, we're going to set the properties that we're going to change, and we'll use a table, and we'll call this our box goal. So this table will contain, and I'll get rid of this one here, will contain the properties that we want to change about the box over this half a second. All right, so the thing that we're going to change two things in here. We're going to change the size, which will be the box. Sorry, we don't have up the top here, we don't actually have, we're using the TP, sorry. So it should be TP and dot size. And we're going to add to this a vector3 dot new, and now we have three numbers, x, y, and z. So what we're going to do is increase the length by adding 1 to x and z, but we're going to decrease y so that it squashes the box slightly. All right, so that will be the effect, and to do that we'll put in 1, -1, and 1. At the end of this line, add a comma, and then we'll type position, and it will be equal to tp.position. Okay, and this time we're going to minus vector3.new. And the reason we're doing this is because when we squash the box, or make it the height of it decrease by 1, it actually sort of sits up above the ground. So what we're going to do is move the position down at the same time that it's being squashed, and that way it'll appear to sit on the ground. So we'll say 0, and 1, and 0. Right, so we're actually decreasing the position, or moving it down the screen by 1 stud as we're squashing it. All right, so hopefully that makes sense. All right, now just below this, you'll remember when we created our box, if I come back over here and bring this up, we have all these decal parts in here. Now, if you just want your box to disappear, then you would need to hide all of these parts. But in this case, we're just going to destroy the entire box when the player picks it up. So we won't worry about hiding this or making it reappear with transparency or anything. We will simply destroy the box. And when you, well, we can show you later in other videos how to spawn those boxes back into the game. But for now, let's concentrate on creating the actual tween. And it will be, now we'll add we'll create the tween here. So box tween will be equal to. So we're using the tween service, and then a colon, and then create. Now when you create the tween, it's asking what instance do you want to use, or what part do you want to apply the tween to. And in this case it's TP, which will be one of many of these box parts. So we'll put in here TP. Then it's asking for our info, and remember we created this up here, box info. So we'll put in box info, and the last part will be the properties table, which is the goal down the bottom here. So we'll say box goal. And the last thing to do is actually just get the tween to play. Now the great thing about this is that we don't have to use while loops or anything like that for tweens, because we added this -1 up the top here to reverse and repeat, and it will just keep doing that over and over for whatever we apply it to. All right. Now that's the first part for getting the tween to work, and if you want to give it a test, come up and click on View and then the Output window just to check for errors and give it a play. And you should see that the box is moving up and down. Now, it is sort of sinking down into the ground a bit. So if you wanted to change that so that it didn't sink so much, you could come back in, and remember we're moving the position down. We could move it down just, say, 0.5 instead, and that should help that. All right? So that's how to get the tween to work. Now we'll add a touched function to this to change the value that we set up in the main script to count the box and get rid of it. So just below this, we add in tp.touched. Now you'll notice that you don't get helper text here because this TP hasn't been created until we run the game. All right, so you'll just have to be careful when you type this in. Connect and a set of brackets and our function, and we pass in the parameter of hit. So this will be the part of the character that hits the box, so their foot or their hand, etc. And we use that information to see if it's a character. So we're going to assume it's a character by saying character equals hit.parent. Then we're going to check if that character is a player in the game, so they haven't left yet. So we'll say local player equals game.players and a colon get player from character, and simply pass in the character variable. Now we have enough information to create a conditional statement to do a couple of checks. So we can say if we do have a player and DB is equal to is true, then. Now I didn't create that just up here, so we'll add that in just here. The variable local DB equals true. Now DB is short for debounce, and it's a way of controlling our scripts and making sure they only run the number of times we want and when we want. So when we do that, or the way we do it is this is set to true, and then immediately inside here we set DB equal to false, and that will, if the player is still touching the part over and over again, it will stop this part of the code running any more than once. Right? We don't need to set it back to true in here because we're actually going to destroy the box at the end when they get down to the bottom of here. Alright, so now that we know we have a player to work with, we want to get a hold of, and I'll just open this up, their leader stats folder. So the way we do that is to create a variable called pstats. It could be any name, that's what I like to use. Player, and then wait for child. Now wait for child you should use with folders because they contain lots of things and it stops errors from happening. And we are looking for leader stats, the leader stats folder inside of the player. And once we have that, we can create a variable for the boxes value that we had, and it will be pstats.boxes. Now it has to be spelled exactly the same, so see I used a capital B, B-O-X-E-S, so you must use it like this with the dot syntax here or it won't work. And now that we have that value, we want to change that value, so we'll say boxes.value and we will add plus equals 1. Alright, so this is a shortened version of saying pboxes.value equals pboxes.value plus 1. Alright, so much easier to say and write doing it this way. Now we'll add a short task.wait, and then we're going to put in here TP and destroy. Now we add this wait in here simply because code runs very quickly, and if this hadn't processed, the box may get destroyed before this has had time to run. So this little bit of a break here should ensure that when the player picks up the box, it makes the change. And that is everything we need in this script. So come up to View and Output. So click on our Output window and we'll give it a quick save and a play, and let's see if it works. Alright, I'm in the game and our box is sitting there bouncing up and down, and if I run over it, we get one box and it's been destroyed. Alright, so there's one other thing that I wanted to show you and why how powerful tag scripts are, and that is, I'll stop that there. Now that we have this tagged script and this box, if I come up here and duplicate this and move it over here, and duplicate this and move it over here, when I run the game now, you should see that they are all doing exactly the same thing with one script, and when I run over each one, they perform exactly the same way. So if that's all you needed to know, then that you can wrap up this video right here. However, if you'd like to see how we put this into the main game project, stick around and I will add that on to the end. If not, I shall see you in future videos. Alright, if you've stuck around, then you probably have finished the first video in this series where you created a basic Obby. Now, we're in the original here of creating the box. So I'll just close these scripts and I'll show you how we can save these items into a folder and then open up our main game script and insert them and make a couple of changes fairly quickly to get it all working. So the first thing is we will pick one of these boxes up here, and I'd like you to go ahead and right click on it and come down to Save to File. And when you do that, it should pop up with a window on your computer, and you need to find somewhere where you're going to do this. And I'm going to come up to where I'm doing it at the moment, and I'll create a new folder in here. All right, and I'll call mine Resources. It's already taken, so let's do 2 because I'd already done this. So Resources 2, and I'm going to save this box. All right, so just box, and make sure it says down the bottom here RBXM, and then click on Save. All right, so that has saved this resource ready for us to use in our other project. Now the other thing that we're going to save is the tagged box script down here. So just left click on it and then right click, come down to Save to File, and it should go back to the same folder. This time though, it'll come up as Lua. However, I want you to click on the drop down and change it so that it says RBXM, like a model, and then click on Save. And that is all we need to do to save from here in this project. So I'll stop the video and then I'll open up the main game one and I'll show you how to put that in there. Alright, so I have opened up the main game, Obby game that I started in video 1, and to add the resources into this and get everything working, we're going to come up to Workspace, click on the plus and add a folder, and to keep things organised we'll change the name to All Boxes. And once you've got this folder, you can right click on it and come down to Insert from File, and then locate on your computer where the box was, left click on it and click on Open, and that should insert the box. Now in the previous project, if you weren't near the center of the base plate, it may have inserted it somewhere else because it's got its old position, and if that is the case and you can't see it, to move it, what you can do is pick one, say the spawn point here, and come down and get its position down the bottom here. Alright, click on that, hit Control or Command C, go to your box part wherever it might have been and you can't find it, and then click on the position, paste it in and hit Enter, and it will move your box to your spawn point. Okay, so that's just a little trick there to do that. Once you have it in the game, however, we won't worry about positioning it just yet. Just move it over here. So the other thing that we need to add in is the script into the server script service. So come down to server script service, right click on it and then insert from file, choose the tagged box script and click open. Alright, now remember that in it here we're looking for a variable, alright, called boxes. So we need to create that. It is down in here, so there it is, boxes. So we need to create that in our main script. So open up your main script and you should have something that looks like this. Down the bottom we need to create that, so local player boxes will equal instance.new, and it will be a number value. We'll parent this to the leader stats, and player boxes dot name equals, and it must be the same as we used in our script, so boxes, and player boxes dot value will equal 0, and that's all we need to add in to get this to work. Now I'm not sure if the tag will copy over. We'll give it a try and just see if that works. So click on File and Save and then hit play, and it has. So the tag was attached to the box when we saved it. You'll see that it's working in our game. We've got this up in leader stats, and if I run over it, because I ran onto the base plate from the previous project, I didn't actually get to hit it. I'll see if I can jump onto it. There we go. And I jumped onto it and I got one box and the box got destroyed. Alright, so that's pretty easy to add this in. And like I said before, if you come up to your box parts now and use your move tool and move it up into your Obby, we'll just position it a bit say on this platform here. You can then duplicate these, so move this across here, and when you play, everything should work just as we had planned it. So running onto the base plate, jump over here and collect the boxes. Alright, so I hope you enjoyed that, and you keep coming back for more Obby ideas and I'm going to build this Obby into quite a big project, so I hope you come along with me. I'll see you in the next video. If you found this video useful, subscribe now. For more information about my online courses, go to mrbrendanross.com.